Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Similarweb's virtual breakfast, retail and e-commerce trends to fuel your growth in 2022. My colleagues Inès and Lisa will take you through the latest data and insights in the space of retail and e-commerce. Over to you, Inès.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining. As Ed mentioned today, we'll cover these e-commerce and retail trends and looking back on the golden quarter performance and what does it say for your businesses in 2022. Before we get started, let me just introduce myself and my colleague. I'm an industry manager, specialized in retail and CPG, especially in the beauty and personal care categories. Also have experience in the M&A and financial services industry. My colleague today, Lisa Grünwald, is an experienced e-commerce consultant. She's been working in the business for over 4 years. She's really an expert in market trends and uncovering developments in the retail sector. Lisa is based in our Munich office and will take you through some insights today. Next slide, please. So let me just take you quickly through our agenda today. First, we'll talk about Amazon category performance, as it does say a lot about overall retail performance in UK. Then we look at the best performing retailers, just to uncover what happens during the golden quarter in different categories. Then we'll deep dive into industry-focused e-commerce trends and apparel, beauty, grocery and kitchen appliances industries, and then we'll wrap up the session looking at shopping patterns and consumer behavior and what will change in 2022. Over to you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you. So as Inès has just said, when talking about e-commerce, there's really no way around Amazon. So that's why we want to take a look at the performance of several Amazon categories. So if you move to the next slide, thank you. As some of you have might read in the news, Amazon just published their earnings report for 2021 and stated that their revenue in the UK has jumped by 20%. If we look at our data of units sold and revenue on Amazon.co.uk, we can see that not all categories have experienced this growth in the last quarter of the year. So we can see here the top 10 retail and CPG categories. And we can see that there is really only one category, the first one, groceries, which saw a significant jump in the unit sales. So that's the dark blue column you can see here. So for groceries, we have a 21% jump in unit sales. For all the other categories like beauty, home and kitchen, toys and games, we can see that they did not have as much revenue or units sold as they had in 2020. So how can we explain this? I think one of the big reasons is if we think about 2020, of course, because of lockdown, because of fear of infections, many shoppers just decided to purchase their things online instead of going to the stores. But now in 2021, where you can finally go back to the stores and to just have this physical experience again of maybe touching things, trying them out, browsing, we can clearly see that people are actually going back to this, back to the store's behavior. So we will have a closer look at some of those categories and the trends that will shape them in the next few minutes. But first of all, Inès will show you whether we can also see this trend in the retail sector.
Thank you, Lisa. So before taking a deeper dive into category-specific insights, let's look at the performance of other retailers and Amazon and see if this overall decline in most categories also translates into our conversion data for major UK retailers. So first, on this graph, you can see the total visits and converted visits year-on-year change for top beauty and luxury retailers that either sell beauty, apparel, or both. So we have brand names, like we have names such as Selfridges, Next, ASOS, Net-a-Porter, John Lewis, etc. So it's quite a big set. And from what we see is that from this list of retailers, return of in-store shopping affected conversion for 12 out of 16 of these big beauty and apparel retailers in Q4. Only the beauty online player looked fantastic. So a year-on-year increase in total visits by 33%, while all the UK retailers total visits dropped due to the return of in-store shopping. Obviously, as Lisa mentioned, there was a lockdown in 2020, so it makes sense that people shopped way more online in 2020, and that this growth did not sustain. The second thing interesting to look at here is that the perfume shop that is actually it's a fragrance retailer that has both physical point of sales and an online store, was increased its converted visits by 66% year on year, while losing 5% of traffic. It's quite interesting because fragrance is naturally not the easiest product to purchase online, as there is a strong sensory barrier. But thanks to their hybrid model with a click and collect, a very quick and collect system under 30 minutes, they managed to actually increase their conversion. Lastly, something that is interesting here is that the pure players Feel Unique that sells beauty, and Net-a-Porter, which is a luxury apparel retailer, really strongly increased their converted visits year on year. And what we've seen here is that pandemic has been really an accelerator for luxury online pure players, especially when we compare it with the luxury retailers that have a physical point of sale, such as Harrods, Harvey Nichols, and Selfridges, whose total traffic and converted visits declined year on year. So we can see that consumers were really looking for the true physical in-store shopping experiences for these retailers. Next slide, please. Secondly, we'd like to take a look at consumer electronics retailers, total traffic and converted visits year-on-year change. So here we have a list of these major UK retailers: Argos, Currys, Tesco, Very, Bayer, and Robert Dias. And we see that out of all these retailers, only Robert Dias increased its converted visits in Q4 thanks to aggressive deals displayed on its homepage, which is a strong incentive for consumers to buy. However, we acknowledge that Robert Dias is slightly smaller in size compared to its other competitors, so there is probably some more room for growth. So what we can see here, why can we explain this major drop in Q4 year on year? We have two hypotheses. So firstly, obviously the return of on in-store shopping, although consumer electronics has been one of the first segments that moves into e-commerce, but people, for example, might want to go in store and look in store how their TV display is going to look like, if the quality is good, etc. And secondly, we really think that there was actually in consumer electronics a very a strong equipment boom in 2020 when people stayed at home, and due to the life cycle of consumer electronics product, the growth did not sustain in 2021. Over to you, Lisa.
Yes, thank you so much. That was very interesting. We will now, as we've said, have a look at certain e-commerce trends in different industries. And we're going to start with groceries because, as we have seen, this was the biggest spike in Amazon. So if we look at supermarket websites, so apart from Amazon, we can see that for them, the total traffic did not follow Amazon's trend. So both the visits in the full year and the visits in the golden quarter actually declined in comparison to 2020. So what we can see here is that there are two trends. One, of course, people are actually going back to supermarkets to buy things. And two, many people who just started shopping groceries through Amazon in 2021 are actually continuing to do this in the rest of the year and also in the following years. So we can see also that there's a very high number of returning shoppers on Amazon. So let's take a closer look at these two trends on the next slide. So here we have 5 big supermarket websites, and we can see that for them, the visits actually declined for all of them. So as we've seen, more people go back to the supermarket, actually go there to buy things. And what's interesting is that we can see that also the search pattern has changed. So people are more looking for things like supermarket XYZ opening times or closing times or supermarket near me. So people are not browsing on the website to actually buy something, but they just want to find out more information. So that's why also on the orange bar, the converted visits actually went down because people just had a different intent when going to this website. The second thing that is interesting on this slide is if we look at Morrison's. So we can see that Morrison's had quite a decline in both visits and converted visits. And what's interesting is that this is not really a decline, but more of a shift because Morrison started expanding their partnership with Amazon. So that means that now you can almost get the full range of products actually from Amazon. So while the converted visits here declined by 29%, sales on Amazon for Morrison's actually increased by 28%. So it's almost like a one-to-one shift just from buying from the website to buying on Amazon. Another big trend, which we will see on the next slide, please, thank you, is that the groceries industry or the food industry is very heavily influenced by seasonal trends. And one of them was actually just last month. So maybe some of you also participated in Veganuary, where you say that, okay, after all the feasting in December, I'm now gonna try to live a vegan lifestyle for the month of January. And so this trend is actually visible in our data. So we can see here that the searches for vegan keywords, so for vegan products, actually went up by 103% in the month of December compared to all the other months. And also the product clicks, so the orange line, went up by 84%. So people really want to buy something, really want to get these vegan products, really want to find them. So that's interesting that this is visible here, and it's also visible in Google in general. So in the search engines, it's not just an Amazon thing. You can also see that for the transactional grocery websites, so excluding things like food blogs or food recipes, but really websites that sell vegan products, we can see that searches here have also been up by 144%. So that means that if you are a company that produces groceries, that sells groceries, it's very important to just have these trends in mind, to monitor the market, to make sure that you can promote your products in your range when such trends are actually happening. So next up, we want to see what people are actually doing with their groceries. So we will have a look at kitchen appliances. So here we looked at several kitchen appliances websites such as Russell Hobbs, SodaStream, Morphy Richards, and we can see that for them it was a good year. So both total visits and visits in the Golden Quarter actually went up. So people who might start cooking as a hobby in 2020 are still doing this in 2021. They're still investing in equipment and buying new things, even now with restaurants opening again. And we can also see that there are certain product trends. So for example, in 2021, things like Instant Pots, air fryers, so everything that makes cooking maybe a bit more convenient to get fast, healthy dishes was a big thing. So we can very clearly see that on Amazon here, the first chart. The Instant Pot, so the Instant Pot is like a electric multi-cooker, was actually the most sold product in the kitchen appliances category. The increase was by 491%. I mean, that's huge in unit sales. What might be interesting here is that the revenue, so the orange chart bar, actually went down. So we can explain that because this growth in unit sales was mostly fueled by discounts and offers. So the product was at times 40% cheaper than in the year before. So that means that a lot more people were just actually buying this. And for some other brands, we can see that often their units sold decreased or their revenue decreased. However, this is also because there has been quite a shift to actually buy products not on Amazon, but on the brand's direct website. So for example, because of their search strategy or social media presence, people were more inclined to actually buy the products from the website and not from Amazon. So it's kind of two strategies here, either just buying the things on Amazon with cheap offers or going directly to the brand's website. And one nice example for this we can see on the next slide. Here we have Ninja Kitchen, which had quite a big increase in unique visitors and also in pages for visits, meaning that the audience was very engaged. And this was mostly because Ninja Kitchen has quite a strong social media presence. So really to address younger audiences, they managed to do this very well because they have lots of content on their Instagram, Facebook pages, etc. And this just leads to a lot more traffic on their websites. So for them, this was a very, very winning strategy that they will probably continue to do in 2022, as this is, well, a good way to do this. So much for groceries and kitchen. What trends are we seeing in the beauty world, Inès?
All right, next slide, please. So first, I would like to look at Amazon sales performance. Why? Because thanks to our shopper intelligence solution, we have access to transactional data, and it's always interesting to look at units sold and revenue year-on-year change. So what we've seen here in the Amazon beauty category is that although there's been an increase in units sold year-on-year in Q1 for BT, there's been a decline over Q4. Actually, only the makeup segment of Amazon grew in Q4 year-over-year, while all the over 6 subcategories, so the sales value and volume, decrease. So this decrease might be attributed to supply shortages that might have affected availability and therefore Amazon sales. There's also a clear effect of reopening of beauty salons on the hair care and the manicure segments. And for fragrance, there is increased competition of DTC websites and beauty pure players, online pure players that are specialized in fragrance. What we see here, one interesting trend is that the makeup growth was actually driven by the body makeup segments. And that, as you see on the right hand of the screen, the body tattoo was the top keyword for that category. So after trying to understand why body makeup increased that much, I found that temporary tattoos obviously always existed, but they became very popular in 2021 thanks to TikTok. These two videos made over, especially the second one on the right hand, made over 5 million impressions and was stuck into a big wave of over viral videos. And we can really see a clear spike in searches and clicks. So we can really see how TikTok can influence beauty sales, which is quite an interesting trend. Next slide, please. Then I'd like to look at the B2C beauty website and Q4 performance and what does it mean for the next big feature, that is Mother's Day in 2022. So obviously there's been a rise in BTC, like by B2C and D2C beauty, as brands try to get closer to their customers. And that's the reason why we're not looking at retailer performance here, but brands' websites that are generally used for browsing and get more information about the products. So in our competitive brands, we included high-end skincare and perfume brands such as Charlotte Tilbury, Estée Lauder, Clarins, Lancôme, but also newcomers such as The Ordinary or Paula's Choice. And what we found out is that there was a minus 21% year-on-year in total visits over Q4, despite an increase year-on-year in 2021 compared to 2020 by 6%. So what does that mean for Mother's Day? It means that we're not expecting the same sharp rise of sales figures around Mother's Day than last year, at least really not to the same extent as 2021. Next slide, please. So out of these 17 brands, we saw that over Q4 2021, only 2 managed to grow their audience on their website. So this graph shows unique visitors and average visit duration year-on-year growth. and only Armani Beauty and Yves Saint Laurent Beauty saw an increase of their unique visitors, and only 4 brands managed to increase the average visit duration, meaning that they engaged more their visitors and were more likely to convert. But what does that mean here, this chart? When I compare it with, for example, the beauty and apparel retailers, it means that this decline in traffic is really industry-wide, also concerns B2C, D2C websites, and not only retailers. So now, after looking at beauty, let's look at some apparel insights. We tried to look at which trends really shaped Q4 2021 compared to 2020, looking at on-site search for the top apparel and fashion websites and retailers. And basically what we found out was that the top trending terms that generated the most click were really around smart business and party attire. So the trend shows that in Q4, UK consumers really left their sweatpants and leggings for some fancier attire. The fastest growing apparel keywords mostly refer to party attire or work attire. So we have workwear dresses, ball gowns, or tuxedos. The return of social events is really illustrated into these fastest growing keywords. And we can really see that everything is coming back to normal. The second trend that I will talk after in the next slide is we can see that Top Men was the fastest growing website. It shows a lot about how the return of in-store shopping may not affect men's apparel and women's apparel to the same extent. Next slide, please. Now let's look at UK apparel Amazon insights. Amazon is increasingly becoming a player in the apparel industry, whether we want it or not. So now let's look at 2 trends before wrapping up this industry specific insights. So on the left, we can look at the fastest growing apparel subcategories in revenue. And what we see here is that there is clearly a discrepancy between men and women, as I mentioned. While the women's apparel sales are declining on Amazon in revenue in Q4, they increased for men's. So women really embrace more the return of in-store shopping than men, who kept buying their clothes online. Secondly, there is on this left side of the screen, we can see there is really clearly a trend, as I mentioned, to the return to the office. The top trending categories are men's jackets, but also tights, women's skirts, but also women's jackets. Secondly, lastly, on the left side of the left hand of these charts, we can also see that there is a return, like a trend of around back on the slopes. So people are coming back skiing as sunglasses are on the rise, and we usually don't buy sunglasses in December unless we go skiing. We saw that the top selling for men's jacket is actually mountain ski jackets, and people are looking for thermal underwear. Secondly, let me talk to you about the second trend we're looking on Amazon right now, especially in the men's jacket industry, is that on the right hand of the screen, we see the revenue share per brand, and we can really see that Amazon is becoming a retailer like any other retailer in apparel. Why so? Because we see that out of these top 10 brands that are included in a revenue share, the top 2 trends only represent 24% of the category revenue. And we can see the presence of very trendy apparel brands such as Columbia, Carhartt, the North Face. So there is really a fragmented market and a room for growth for a lot of trendy brands on Amazon in the men's apparel category. So now let's move on to the last section of our webinar, which will be shopping patterns in 2022. For you, Lisa.
Yes, thank you. So we'll now show you 3 trends that we can see just for the whole retail sector. One big trend we are seeing is that consumers really love and want blended shopping. So a mixture of online shopping and offline shopping. So our data shows that searches for like click and collect features or stock checker features are up a lot and continuously growing. And not just for example, for groceries, but also for fashion, for clothes, furniture, home improvement. So really amongst all industries, people want to browse online and then maybe go to the store to pick it up, or they want to know beforehand whether a product is actually available before going to the stores to buy it. Second trend, well, probably the biggest trend that COVID brought us in this area is that e-commerce rose massively. So both on marketplaces and on D2C websites, it really grew a lot. And we do expect that while the growth might not be as steep as from 2019 to 2020, the growth will still continue and it will not go back down to pre-pandemic levels. So we can see here traffic volume to e-commerce sites in 2021 was 16% higher than in 2019. And if we remember, like even in 2019, e-commerce was already a big thing, but now it's just become a part of everyday life, and it's definitely here to stay.
Thank you, Lisa. So just to wrap up this session, let's look at the last really big trend that is going to shape, I think, e-commerce in 2022, which is the buy now, pay later. So you've probably heard about buy now, pay later options. It's been making a lot of noise in the media lately, and it does really reduce frictions online, especially for apparel or over like sensorial products and like line of businesses where consumers don't have to worry about being charged before trying on clothes, or don't have to worry about getting paid to buy the items they like. So platforms such as Klarna, ClearPay, and Laybuy often offer these interest-free credits. And this growth is really indicated here by the number of UK merchants with one of the major BNPL softwares installed on their websites. So we've seen that the number of online retailers offering this option really grew by almost 2,000% year on year in 2021, which is huge. And we really believe that this option, the buy now pay later, could be really a potential channel for growth for retailers that offer that option. All right, so thank you very much all for attending. We were really happy to have you here. And obviously the slides will be sent over, and if you have any other questions, please reach out to me and Lisa, and we'll be really happy to go through the insights that we covered today. Thank you.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.